Hello and welcome to this special broadcast on NewsX and Business World. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. Thanks for being with us today. We're going to be speaking about some of the challenges which the last 3 months have confronted some of the biggest companies and corporates with. Remember, it's been an unprecedented, 3 times, not just 3 months, not just for India, but for the entire world. This pandemic has gripped everyone, taken everyone by surprise. And the nature of it has been, of course, the unknown, because we've never seen something like this before, which is why it's taking so long to develop a vaccine as well. But how have companies and organizations and leaders navigated their way through these 3 months to inspire the employees that work for them and also ensure that their companies and organizations get back on growth track? What have been the challenges, the opportunities? What have been their strengths, their weaknesses? We're going to speak about all of that, and of course also look at their take on how to get back on the fast track growth for the India story, and of course their advice to other entrepreneurs and other leaders of companies as well. So a special panel as well joins us as always on this special program today. We have Prakash Malia with us, Managing Director of Intel India. Welcome, Mr. Malia, thank you for being with us. Paul Dupuy also joins us. He's MD and CEO, Randstad India, and also author of the ES Movement. Paul, good to have you. Sachin Jain is with us, Managing Director of De Beers India. Thank you, Sachin, for being with us. Dr. Anurag Batra, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief of Businessworld and Exchange for Media Group, joins the panel as well. Dr. Batra, thanks for being with us as well. And today, of course, you're going to be asked the questions rather than you asking the questions as well. Lloyd Matthias is also with us. He's a business strategist and an angel investor. So, as I said, a very power-packed panel. Welcome, all of you. Thank you so much for being with us once again. Let me get started with my first question, which, as I said, we're going to be speaking about, of course, the situation, but we're going to need your personal stories as well as inspiration for the people watching this program today. So let me begin with you first, Mr. Malia. What has been the biggest challenge personally and professionally that you faced or your group has faced in navigating through the last 3 months?
Yeah, hi Uday. Thank you for having me. Good evening. This is a Friday evening. And as I think about it, there are a couple of things.
If you could just speak a bit louder, sir, that'll be great.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
There are things that come to my mind. One is the way I'm built. I'm extremely optimistic, outgoing. So I like to meet people, engage with them face to face. So everybody locked up at home, not being able to do that is kind of the most difficult adjustment for me. And I've tried to come around it with having a routine for the day, trying to help out the family at home, whether it's mopping the floor some days or helping out in several different ways, even cutting some vegetables because I'm not very good at kitchen in cooking. So I tried to help in other ways. Then engaging with employees every single day, calling a few employees just to connect with them, writing what I feel every week. Those are the kind of ways I have engaged to keep my spirit up. The second part has been just professionally, how I have been able to transform from, say, completely remote working, engaging with customers. I personally can tell you that I was on the road every week, meeting customers and partners in different parts of the country and sometimes overseas as well. Now, all of that is remote work and remote engagement. So that has been a little bit challenging as well. And lastly, on the personal side, both my wife and I are avid travelers. We have an ambition to travel 100 countries and we are at 65. That was the last one we did. And I don't think that number is going up anytime soon. So that is the last one I would bring up. But however you look at it, I'm extremely grateful for everything I have. I've realized what is truly important, and I can't say I want anything more.
Okay, fantastic. Paul, same question to you. How have the last 3 months been like for you? What's been the biggest challenge personally, as well as, of course, professionally for you and your group?
Well, thank you for having me tonight. Good evening from Bangalore. Prakash, you said that very well. Absolutely. This crisis has been a harsh reminder, in a way, a positive reminder of what's important. I think all of us would agree. Because we've been forced to stay home And for those of us that have family around us, we appreciate them more than ever, I think, now. And the basics are really quite important. But for me, I'm very similar to Prakash, and probably everyone here today, love to be with people. And we have 60,000 plus people in India that rely on me to lead them forward. And I'm absolutely motivated by being with my people, and not being able to be face-to-face has been challenging. On the other hand, it's also challenged us as leaders to be agile and to find new ways to connect, to replace that face-to-face contact, to replace the travel that Prakash talked about as well. So I've created a completely new routine. I think, like most of the guests on this call, I'm busier than ever. If you look at the schedule, it's packed, absolutely packed with connecting. So everything that I'm doing now is really about engaging. And I believe this is a time for leaders to be focused on enabling. So leader as enabler. And I'm focusing a lot of my time on that. On the personal side, I've actually taken advantage of this opportunity to read, to write. I'm working on my second book and made a lot of progress as a result, I think, of COVID-19, partly reflecting, partly some time to do it. And also fitness. So mental health and physical health has become more and more important to me. And I'm also encouraging my team to prioritize those two. So in a way, this crisis has opened up new opportunities for me in the way I sort of live and the way I schedule my day.
Okay, fair enough. Sachin, let's get you in here.
Thanks, Uday. Thanks for having me on. I would just second what Paul and Prakash have already mentioned, and I think a lot of commonalities amongst all of us in this sort of new world. But just to reflect a little beyond that, I mean, the aspect of being agile, which I thought was the biggest challenge for an organization which operates, in the mining world, a global representation of a very classic, slow product, not like IT. It's a lot of physical in nature. And I think for us, it took a lot of time to first figure out that everything is taught. It's not just a part of the business, a part of the geography. Everything is taught. And then, navigating through certain recoveries. And that's been quite interesting, professionally challenging as well. I think I was sharing with Anurag yesterday. For us, it was really, when you say, these are the values, and you stick them on fancy boards and say, these are my values of my company. I think this was the time when it was values in play. And I feel really grateful to be part of an organization and to lead a team where the values were really in play. We pulled together, we stood for one another. There was a bit of, anxiety that we sort of navigated through together. So very interesting times. But my personal, most important one has been that I've been able to reflect a lot. And I think as leaders, we're always running behind the packed schedules and from one project to the other. And what I've been able to do is to put, reflection as a part of my agenda. So every week there's time to reflect. And I think it's been very, very good.
Okay, fair enough. Dr. Batra, for you, how the last 3 months been like? What's been the biggest challenge for personally as well as professionally?
Uday, I'll break it into two. I'll break it into the first 15 days and then the next 60 days, broadly. I think the first 15 days I was very lost. I was very confused. I was uncertain. And I was feeling guilty. Wish I had more money. I could give more money to my people, So I was ruining over a lot of things, and I'm mostly in the action mode, but I was not in the action mode for at least a week. I was like thinking, and then for some reason, I said, okay, let's think through and see what we can do in this times. And I realized that I could do a few things, which is reimagine my company. For example, Businessworld, I always wanted to be a digital first, video first. It never happened. So I started doing a show with you, right, on NewsX every day. So I got into the action mode. We looked at what is the way forward digitally, and we kind of pivoted to being a digital product and going forward that what we would be. On a personal level, I travel a lot, I meet a lot of people. And, most people for the first 20 days, my friends thought that I'd die because if I didn't meet people, I'd be like fish out of water. But I can tell you, I only met 5 outsiders in the last 72 days.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
So actually, as everyone has said in Sachin, I got time to reflect, think, read. I thought I'll complete my book, but I'm more busy than ever. So I have not completed my book, but I've told myself I will complete. I just want to say that, I want to end by saying that, I really tried to make the most of what I had, and it's kind of working out. And the only variable is how long will the COVID last. Right now, the only worry is that, and that's what will get me to calibrate what I want to do.
That's the point, isn't it? You know, that's what I said. It's the unknown. That's why this situation has been so unprecedented, of course, and worrisome for some. And very interesting point, of course, Dr. Batra, as you made that the first 15 days you were also at a loss and quite confused. Lloyd Matthias, come in here. You know, before we expand the scope of our discussion, Lloyd, your opening comment as well. Last 3 months recap. What's been the biggest professional challenge for you? Biggest personal challenge?
Hey, thanks, Ulay. I think very little that's not been said. But I just want to focus on one part. I think, quite similar to the others. I think, no one expected the extent of the disruption. But I think there's one thing that, I found in this whole course is that, as they say, we're all in the same boat. But in a sense, we're not part of the same storm. We're all going to manage it differently. And really, I think what I discovered was figuring out that, once you get your routine back in order, your calls, the companies you work with, it kind of taught me the lesson about reaching out, right? Starting with, part-time domestic help, the people you work with, your security guards in the colony. And I think once you start reaching out, and I work a lot with early stage, with startups, reach a lot of founders, I think you realize that everyone's having his own challenges to face. One, of course, is the scare of the pandemic and personal issues. I think the other is really about the business issues. So a lot of startups, have to have working capital to tide them over the next 2, 3, 4 months. And I think once you get deeper in that, you realize that there is so much of complexity out there. It's not something you just have to manage for yourself, but you got to look around, not just for your family, but I think for people who possibly need a little bit more help. I think for me, that whole issue of reaching out is something that, after 25 odd years in the corporate world, I suddenly realized that there's so much out there besides our work profiles that we really need to get in touch with.
Okay, fair enough. Let's now expand a bit because a lot of the political players and the other economic players and others who I've spoken to in the last 2-3 months and interviewed have said that, apart from the economic impact and other impacts of this pandemic, most crucial has been the human impact, the emotional impact. Do you believe even for corporate India, Lloyd, let me begin first, has COVID-19 outlined the need for employers and companies to redefine their role to just profitability, beyond just shareholder return, to also their role in society?
Oh, absolutely, Uday. I think that's possibly one of the first, things that most companies have had to rethink. Most of us who spend a lifetime in the corporate world, we recognize that our first allegiance, in a manner of speaking, is to the stakeholder. How do you ensure strong shareholder return, right? That's the guy who's putting up the capital to run your business. And I think this whole chase for shareholder return, for profitability, for efficiency, I think in a sense consumes a lot of us. And I think what this pandemic has taught us is that some of the best companies that will see through this crisis are ones that are resilient and agile, right? And these may not necessarily correspond with companies that are singularly focused on stakeholder return, right? And therefore, it is time for companies and for all corporate organizations, relook at their primary purpose, right? One part of your purpose is serving a product need, serving a consumer need, making money out of that need, returning the monies to shareholders. But I think the other part is what is the larger role you play in the community you belong to. And until organizations don't have clarity on that and they don't realize that they're part of a larger community, they can only have a business as long as the community around them survives, as long as people all around are in good, in good shape, in a manner of speaking. I think that doesn't work. So I think it's really helped companies relook at their entire business.
That's a valid point. Let me take that to Dr. Batra. Sure. Dr. Batra, the societal role of companies completely redefined.
I'll tell you a lot of things around we don't notice. I didn't notice a lot of things. I mean, I'm sure nobody thought, while we are all human-centric, we have emotions, we think about our family. We never thought that labor had such a big issue. We didn't think through those dimensions. So I think for the first time, we noticed a lot. We may have been able to do something about it. We may not have been able to do a lot about it. But for the first time in my consciousness, in a significant way, I'm thinking about the society, the community, why I need to feed the 300 people that work with us in 2 companies. What can I do to make sure that everything that is connected with us also thrives? There is more, we are running. while we want to do a lot on that, honestly, I didn't notice it in a serious way. So I think for the first time, I realized that we are actually so interconnected. I keep talking of abundance and interconnectedness. It made me realize how important it is to think beyond the company that you keep, your employee. So I think what companies are hence doing are they've become more human-centric. They are talking beyond work. I am, for example, interacting with people in my company that I never did. Maybe 30 people I did, and the rest occasional email. So I think it has made us more human-centric. We've accepted people as they are for the first time in a real way. So I think that has happened. But when you talk of large companies, they have to follow, if I may go back to the Tatas. Jamshedpur is a great example of building something sustainable, looking after everyone that is involved in producing what is produced. So you really have a community that you nurture, which becomes a habitat. So I think more and more companies and leaders will have to think and raise resources so they can do that.
Okay, that's a valid point. Sachin Jain, your take.
Okay, from our point of view, the whole work around consciousness around communities and employees has been very important.
Because you can perhaps directly answer on behalf of your company as well.
Absolutely. So, from communities' perspective, as De Beers for all the mining areas, the care that is going around the communities is intense. I mean, all our mining centers have been converted to, quarantine centers. There's loads of care happening. That's one part. But I think I'd resonate with what Lloyd was mentioning, that, the purpose of an organization makes a lot of the understanding of that and delivering it. So in our case, we say making life brilliant is our purpose. But importantly, in these times, while the consumers are going through this whole sort of confusion, not ambiguity, it tends to be our role also to bring a bit of cheer, a bit of smile on their faces. And while we're opening up, I think it's not always saying come blatantly buy my product at a certain discount. It's also bringing a cheer, because that's what your purpose is. So I think it's a connected role between communities, employees, but also what your purpose is and deliver that to employees, to consumers.
And Uday, I just want to say, leaders also are under tremendous pressure. Sometimes I feel the pressure so much, even these, because I don't know what is there beyond 5 months, 3 months. I don't even know what's there in 3 months.
Yeah.
And there's so much expectation from the leader, where I don't have the answers to everything. I'm actually living week by week, or at best 2-3 weeks. I'm living actually day by day.
Okay.
I'm absolutely on. I'm not.
That's a very point.
Very ahead.
Paul.
This is a great question. I have to tell you, it's not the first time that I've come to understand the importance of purpose. I was in Japan before India for 25 years. And if you know how Japanese companies operate, and in fact, even the word in Japanese for company is kaisha. And the two characters of kaisha actually, when directly translated, means community or society. Nowhere do you hear stakeholder, profit, and so on. And of course, Japanese companies, especially those that have been around a very long time, are famous for protecting their people at all costs. Sometimes it's slowed companies down in Japan, and we know on the competitiveness level, but certainly when you join a company in Japan, you know that you will be protected at all costs, right? And I think we've all been reminded of that through this experience. Just before this discussion right now, I actually just got off a call with our global headquarters in Amsterdam with my executive board, where I reported our results for the first half of this year. We're on the calendar year, so we're finishing our first half. The very first question that was asked by our executive board was not about numbers. It was all about how are the people doing? And that's a sign of culture. And I think that's one thing that I'm starting to see from leaders who typically would open up review meetings, even through COVID. Instead of starting with a spreadsheet, they're starting with a question, how are you doing? How's your family? How are you handling this crisis? So I see a lot more empathy and care than I've seen in the past. And I think that's a good thing. And I certainly hope that that's going to continue well beyond this crisis.
Fantastic. Absolutely. People need to imbibe that, moving ahead as well once this pandemic subsides. Prakash Malia, would you like to take that as well? The societal role of leaders and, of course, of organizations at this point as well.
It's very consistent with some of the comments made earlier. I'll give you my personal view. It's a wake-up call for companies, the role they play in society to make it better. And the purpose of the company is questioned now more than ever. And when you look at technology, and we are a technology company, I can give you a technology company point of view. I believe technology can play a role in making it better. So as Intel, I can tell you our purpose is to make world-changing technology to enrich lives of every person on earth. That is our stated purpose. How does it manifest in times we are in? Is to make treatment possible using technology and also further the boundaries of science to ensure that future pandemics are also addressed in a meaningful way. So a couple of examples I can cite, which is specific to India. Our engineering teams have worked or collaborated very closely with CSIR and IIIT Hyderabad to find very low cost and quick COVID testing kits. We have also invested in technology related efforts to do genome sequencing and to find COVID virus and how it impacts human beings differently for different kinds of patients. We have collaborated with NASCOM as an industry body to further the cause of diagnostics using a platform. So those are a couple of examples I can cite where we have gone above and beyond to impact society in a meaningful way. And the last thing I would make as a comment is sustainability as a factor, as it connects back to society, is going to be important for every company on the planet right now. And the reason why it's important to bring it all together is to find the best talent. You need to have a purpose that inspires people to come work for you. And that purpose cannot just be shareholder return.
Okay, point taken. Moving now forward to the current environment. Now it's tough times, no doubt, unprecedented times. But what are you doing as companies to stay agile, to still stay relevant, to stay competitive at this point? So what are the kind of steps that perhaps you've taken or you advise companies to take at this point to stay agile in these extremely uncertain and worrying times? So, and we can keep this answer quick, so you can possibly just list one or two steps. Prakash Male, let me begin with you first.
Our top priority is to manage through this uncertain situation with few things in mind. Number one, health and well-being of our employees. Second, doing the best we can to support our customers. And thirdly, meaningfully impact in a positive way our communities. So there are things we have done. We have always been capable to do remote work, but we never foresaw a situation where we would have 90% plus of our employees overnight working from home. And that was made possible through our Intel IT team working day and night to realign our business processes, whether it's supply chain, whether it is sales and marketing, all of it, to make sure that we do right by customers and right by our operations as well. And specifically, I can give you an example of how we engage with our customers and partners. We have gone from face-to-face to everything being virtual. So 3 weeks back, we did a virtual training and engagement event with our channel customers and partners. The feedback was extremely positive, despite the fact that it was virtual. So a lot of the industry has also come to a realization that this is going to be the norm, and they have accepted and done very well as a collaborative effort to make it better.
Okay, Paul?
You know, if you look at everyone around this table and all the CXOs I talk to every day will tell you they have a BCP plan, right? So business continuity plan. But it's one thing to have a plan, it's another thing to be prepared. We were all caught on our heels.
I did an entire session on a business continuity plan at a prominent industry bodies seminar recently, and there was so much interest. I thought it was a very a theoretical topic that not many people would be interested in, but everyone was interested in that because of the unprecedented times.
Well, pandemic was never, I would speak on behalf of my group, my panelists here, probably we didn't plan for a pandemic. We might have planned for any other natural disaster or economic challenge that we faced in the past, but this was on nobody's radar. And so that's the first thing. We learned a very important lesson here. The next thing is there's 3 phases that we've all gone through. I'll call them the 3 R's, right? We responded, we're recovering, and now we have a chance to reimagine. That is a wonderful opportunity, and there is opportunity in crisis. I think the companies, if you look historically, all the crises that we've all been through in our career, whether it was 9/11.com, H1N1, GFC, again, I was in Japan for the big earthquake, the tsunami, the nuclear meltdown. Every crisis has actually brought opportunity for the organizations that became agile and that learned from it, that learned quickly and reimagined and reinvented. So I am actually quite optimistic about the way forward. We have challenge ahead, but I am seeing that organizations are already thinking about how can we completely reimagine the way we work.
Okay, Sachin?
Well, just continuing from what Paul just mentioned and just not repeating the same things. We are a very traditional sort of a sector, but the whole spirit right now is to reimagine. But what we're saying is that can we be a 132-year-old startup company? Innovation right at the prime. New ways of thinking right at the prime, and all comes along with not just technology, which is a very important part because we are still a very touch and feel business. But that's changing. But the whole mindset to say, guys, wear a hat to say we're a startup. What is the way forward? And I'm amazed how teams are pulling up to reimagine their own, small scale efforts, large scale efforts. But it's all coming together.
Okay, and perhaps Dr. Batra, you can answer that, but also bringing in your comment on whether the gig economy is also taking off, whether that will also lead to companies becoming more agile, fixed costs going down, and whatnot.
I think, as Lloyd rightly said, we are in the same storm but different boats. We are all of us. I'm the entrepreneur on the panel. I come from media, which is dependent on how the economy does, even before the COVID came in. So I'll give you three responses. First, I stopped saying this isn't possible. Everything is possible. If I want to reimagine and lose 20 kgs, it is possible. Except growing here, I think everything else is possible. Maybe that's also possible. I don't know. I stopped saying, okay, tell me. Because if somebody said to all of us, that all our companies will work from home, we will work from home, you think they're smoking something very good, right? But so I stopped telling myself it's not possible. And I promise you, Lloyd, on a TV show that we'll reimagine, reinvent, and we'll get to perfection. And Lloyd is a catalyst in that sense, making that happen. Because if we don't, we won't survive, forget thrive. Second is I believe in when it rains, look for rainbows. When it's dark, look for stars. I've said this to you before. I really am looking for the rainbows, and I've found too many of them. I've found too many stars. So, possibly I'm doing much more than I should have, but it's working for me. Third is very numeric, is you have to look at costs now on a weekly, monthly basis. And we have to spend on what generates income for you. I'm talking as an entrepreneur. I don't work for Intel, Randstad, De Beers. I'm not an investor like Lloyd. So I have to look at running a company. And I'm first generation. So I'm looking at everything that leads to either performance now or will lead to performance in 3-6 months. And I can tell you, from a time standpoint, the biggest blessing is, while I love to meet everyone, I would do one breakfast. I have time, and it has brought in focus. Sometimes my focus would go here, there. I would socialize more. So it has brought focus. And the virtual economy or the digital economy, I'm saying everything we do has to be digital. Right from if somebody wants to advertise, everything should happen through the click of a button. And my inspiration is the one-click sale that Amazon, one click. And so through everything has to be a call to action. And I told myself in 3 to 6 months we'll be perfect. But there are variables on Corona and the vaccine. If that comes earlier, but some things will stay forever. Costs have to be brought down. That is a reality. And as you have heard on our show, that really the demand for a lot of things has gone down.
Okay. Point taken. Lloyd Matthias, how companies actually, what they can do to become more agile in this environment, and whether you also believe the gig economy can take off right now currently.
Thanks for that. I think a great question. Just two parts. The first part, I think really, to extend the analogy of the boat and the storm, I think there's one very important thing to remember is that when there's a storm at sea, the fisherman tends to his nets. So I think one of the big opportunities for companies and for individuals is to use this kind of forced downtime, the fact that we don't have long commutes and or we stuck in traffic jams, is to use this time to learn and upgrade new skills. And a lot of the startups I work with, I've seen a lot of the founders, they've actually gone back to their teams and see if they could get some of their key team members to multi-skill, right? And that links to your question about the gig economy. And which also links a little bit to this whole purpose discussion. One of the nice things I read was across the US and Europe, Nike got all their store assistants, guys who the company's mission is really about keeping people fit. And they actually got their store assistants to conduct virtual online fitness training classes for a lot of their clients. So it really fed off the mission that we're a company that wants to keep people fit, not just to sell sneakers, but actually to go out and help people. So similarly, a lot of the startups I work with, I think they're looking at multi-skilling, getting their existing staff to upskill, to learn new skills, and therefore recognizing that in the uncertain future, you can have people who can do more than just coding. So if a coder can also go and occasionally meet a customer, or if a customer service executive can also do a little bit of the back-end financials, much better off. So I think multi-skilling, trade opportunity, and using the downtime, which in effect is really what the gig economy is all about. The fact that we all need to be more versatile and more agile in our roles and not define our roles very narrowly.
Prakash Malia, come in. Yeah, Prakash, please.
One comment on gig economy, right?
Yes.
The thing that I keep looking at is this working from home situation, remote work situation, has reimagined in our minds what's possible in remote collaboration. And I wanted to give you an India context, what it means for India. You are in a situation where companies will no longer be geographically limited for acquiring talent, which they were. And India is one of the youngest countries in the world, the software economy of the world. And you are going to see digital transformation getting driven for Fortune 1000 companies around the world. And it can be driven by software talent in the country. So you have a situation where jobs will come to the smaller towns versus smaller town people coming to the big cities to find jobs. It is going to be a hugely net positive for the country and net positive for companies as well. And plus, look at employee situations. You have women who have taken a break, who can go back to flexible hours. Anybody who wants to work flexible hours, it's going to be possible. So it's going to be good for the employees, good for companies, and definitely very, very positive for the country.
Okay, Sachin or Paul, do you want to take gig economy, or should I move to my next?
I should make, this is actually what we do, is put people to work. We create gainful employment. And I can tell you what I've seen in many countries where I've worked. There's different evolution of the gig economy depending on the country. If we talk about temporary labor as well. In India, there are still only 1.3 million temp workers in the formal economy. You think about that, what a tiny number compared to the working age population of India. So there's an opportunity there. What I am seeing though, pre-COVID, there was more of an appetite and awareness of temporary labor, contractual labor, and gig. There was more of an interest and an appetite. But with COVID, we're getting a lot of requests for support on those three categories. And absolutely agree. What we're seeing now is the tier 2 cities in India, the tier 3 cities now, where people can be based there because they are there now with their families, and they can work from there and perform a function. And companies have realized that you don't need to have a huge shared service center staffed by 3,000 people in Pune or in Chennai. You can have someone sitting in Guwahati, for example, doing the work that needs to be done. And so this is actually opening up a big opportunity, back to my comment about reimagining. And the companies that get that are already taking action, and we're supporting those companies in India right now.
Okay, fair enough. Let me move on. Sachin, do you want to ask
Just a quick comment. I mean, the fact is, I mean, all's been said, but the fact is that even for traditional sort of industries like us, talent that is, that opens up a geography wherever you are. So for example, in our business, insights on design, insights of consumer insights, all that area, the creative part is available everywhere. And we've been actually on it for the last couple of years, but like everybody said, this COVID has really pressed an accelerator that we are open to accept people wherever they are. This whole thing of saying, have a formal contract and where's the employment, I think those are taking a backseat. Let's talk about work, let's get that done. So that's
point taken. Let's look at now another leadership question. And to, of course, the CEOs and MDs on our panel first. Should CEOs and managing directors now relook at delegating authority as well downwards in a company? Do you believe that that's something also that should be relooked at given the current situation, with appropriate checks and balances as leadership and decision making moves closer to the front lines? Sachin, why don't you take that first?
Well, I think this is a time where the time span of of procrastination is gone. I think we don't have that luxury anymore. We all have to take decisions, and we can say good decision, bad decision, whatever it is, but decide. We got to move on. And if the speed of decision making requires you to delegate, do it. So I think that'd be my view on this.
Prakash Malia.
I feel in every situation, trust and empowerment is important leadership trait. It is going to be tested for leaders because everyone is working from home and you are in an uncertain environment. Like Sachin said, you are navigating through and course correcting every single day, literally. So you have to really have a purpose as a leader and trust your teams to do the best they can to achieve that, and they absolutely will. So my recommendation to all the leaders in times like these is the time to be compassionate, to time to understand each other much better. And I feel through compassion and empathy, you can collectively make this better. That with that mindset, I think empowerment and delegation becomes absolutely the norm that leaders should be far more comfortable with right now more than ever.
Dr. Batra?
I think it's also, I would say, of course, trust is very important, and with responsibility, you must give authority and delegate more. But I think it's also very important to understand what are you delegating, why are you delegating. It depends on what kind of company you are. So for a leader, it's also very important to understand that some of the decisions for the next 3-6 months possibly cannot delegate because, and they will have to be made together, if I may say. Today, earlier you couldn't join a meeting because you would be, today I join 90% of the meetings that happen in my company, right? I can't say 100%, but 90% I join. So you can be part of it. And, what you have to provide is emotional safety to your employees of saying what they want to say and you being able to listen. I think in my case, the listening has gone up.
Okay.
As I said, and these days say never. So once you listen and you find more valuable ideas and you automatically, the decision, the ideas come from somebody else, you say, okay, so actually the decision making is being done. But yes, should we delegate? Something yes, something not at all. I think it's even more important for you to be involved in some decisions. For example, hygiene and safety, right? It may seem, I don't think anybody of us got involved in housekeeping and right? I think it's time to involve yourself and be sure about things, and you can never be sure. So I think increasingly the level of participation of CEOs in decisions that happen low has gone up, and the participation of people who are a little lower in the hierarchy, top, they've come up to the top. So there is somewhere between halfway.
Paul?
If you look at the demographic of middle managers and senior managers right now, let's say over 45 years old, we've all grown up in a world where we led face-to-face. This idea of going completely remote, leading remotely is brand new and alien to us. So leaders actually need help. They need training on how to do this. And the trap I've seen with a lot of leaders, and I've seen it in my own organization, by the way, and I'm coaching my leaders, is instead of enabling, they start to micromanage. And when you micromanage every moment of the day when you're leading remotely, instead of enabling, you disable your people. So I think it's very important, because this is all leaders know. And it comes from this idea of presenteeism, right? You report to a desk in an office and you're within sight of your boss. So your boss can see what you're doing, right? Suddenly, we can't see our people. We can see them on the screen, but we don't know the full picture. What are they really up to? So I've seen a lot of these middle managers and senior managers, not just in my own organization, but in companies that I'm working with, that are struggling with this. So I think, we need to support leaders as well and coach them on how to handle this new world.
Okay, point taken. Lloyd, Matthias, before we move on.
Yeah, I think Paul made the point very well. What I just like to add is, besides the fact that delegation is always important and having the people at the front line empowered is critical to most good organizations, never any doubt. I think it's also prompted a lot of companies to look at the levels of hierarchy, right? In moments like the COVID scenario we've seen in the last 90 odd days, it's the fact that you can't have approvals going up 4 or 5 levels. It's not that, I'm not empowered, I need to talk to my boss and he's going to call the next boss and so on and so forth, which you would do in a real office, right? You walk across to somebody's room and get it all sorted. I think it's actually taught a lot of organizations time to flatten out. Anything more than 4 levels is bound to delay decision making, irrespective of the checks and balances. I think that's one of the big positive outcomes I see out of this entire disruption.
Okay. Now, Dr. Batra spoke about how, say 5 years back or 10 years back, work from home was a complete no. Only when someone was really sick, and then too, if they would work from home, no one would think they were doing it.
If somebody would ask me, I would say, if someone asked me, can I work from home? I would say, yes, Saturday, Sunday, you can work from home.
But now they're doing it on a Monday and a Tuesday and a Wednesday. But, moving forward, is there a likelihood of downsizing office spaces? That's another point to be considered as well. Paul, why don't you take that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, all you need to do is look at the news today. Some big news from IBM in India, cutting half of their physical space. It's about 1 million square feet. That's going to be closed down. And we're seeing that. I can tell you we have almost 2,000 companies we work with in India actively, both multinationals as well as Indian companies in all sizes and shapes and industries. There are not many companies that are talking about expanding their physical footprint. Most are actually rethinking the purpose of the office. And this is interesting because it raises the question, do we need an office full of desks that people report to? Back to my point earlier. Can an office be transformed and reimagined into a place to meet? And so your desk where you work is actually in your home or remote, work from remote. And that could be in a coffee shop, for example, right? What I'm seeing, though, clearly is downsizing in the physical footprint, and it's happening across India and around the world.
Okay. Lloyd.
I think the issue of downsizing and working from home is more than just about kind of reducing office space. I think it's also giving the younger generation, the millennials as we call them, the freedom to actually work remotely, saying that they're more productive instead of just spending an hour or two commuting every day. So I think that's one aspect. And I think the other part that we should recognize is that this also builds very well into this whole flexibility and the gig economy. The fact that a lot of high quality workers with specialized tasks may be available to us remotely as opposed to having them full-time hired. I mean, I know of certain women who've taken 3 or 4 years off after having a baby, and their faculties are intact, they're smart, they're great value to contribute. Now they can work remotely. A company doesn't need to have them full-time on the roads. So I see this whole idea of office space shrinking more than just a cost-saving device, something that actually can make companies more agile and possibly more a better responsive to the end customer.
Okay, Prakash Malia.
I feel you have to look at it in 2 ways. There is no doubt, and panelists mentioned it as well. Everybody is thinking about reimagining work. No question, it will get done. Because there are times where, even as a tech company, I never thought the power of collaboration tools was what it was until we were left with no choice but those collaboration tools to work every day. So no question, it will move to a flexible model. The second part of it is what level of flexibility would be like to get implemented in workspace. And in my opinion, I think it needs to be a combination of social connection. It could be a flexible place to meet, like Paul said, and remote work. Because ultimately, if you do away with social connection, it's going to be extremely hard for employees, especially for mental health situation that we are dealing with, or the general environment. So you have to have a balance in organization where you have flexibility, plus you have social connection. Okay, Dr. Batra?
I think it depends on why, you have to find why we were meeting, because that's how we were used to, as we are on the wrong side of the demographics, at least all of us, I can say some look youthful, but we are. I think increasingly touch and feel will come in different ways. We talked about social interaction, and if you look at the Harvard study, they looked at 80-year data, and the most resilient people who lived long and had meaningful lives, as they described in the research, were people who had more meaningful social relationships in every sphere of life. So, and experience is a word that is used in marketing, it is used in every industry, experience. There was a certain office experience. Now, can we replicate the good parts of that office experience without having the office is the real question. What are those good parts? Mentoring. So how does mentoring, both mentoring and reverse mentoring, because we got to, I'm sure Prakash learns a lot from the young people that works in their office. So how does mentoring happen? Second is how does social connection happen? And third is very, very importantly, how do you get them to work in teams beyond the digital world? I think collaboration internally and externally will only go up. And I want to end by saying that, the skills that will be required on the other side of the COVID. They were relevant before, but they will be more relevant going forward for leaders. One is the ability to be dealing with conflict. How do you deal with conflict and resolve it? Second is, how do you deal with ambiguity? Because for at least the near foreseeable future, you'll have more ambiguity than you ever are. And third is resilience. Because with this ambiguity will come situation. And, COVID is not a black swan event. It's a gray rhino event. Gray rhinos are spotted more often than black swan.
Fair enough. Sachin Jain.
I think I'll resonate to everybody's point of view as well. But I think there's a sort of very important element of doing a physical work, and I think physicality from a social connect point of view is important. But also what's happened is that a lot of teams which have to do physical world work are convincing themselves and the organizations that, I'm working at home, it's all fine. And the fact is, it's the role of a leader to say, okay, guys, it's all right. Now let's work towards normal life. So I think right balance of both is perhaps the future. But I think there's a lot of merit in social connection, because in this time of uncertainty, we were able to pull it because we had those social connections. We knew each other well. We had that element of trust. And I think the right balance perhaps is the right sense of future.
Okay, now let's talk about the learnings. What have been the learnings through COVID? What's one big learning that you've picked up through this situation that can help you change your company moving forward? Sachin, let me begin with you first. And because now we're beginning to run short of time and approaching the end of the program.
So as a large scale,
let's keep it crisp. Yeah, go ahead.
As a large scale organization operating different continents, the fact that physicality is not going to happen, you're not going to take flights. People on ground take onus, react, respond, do the right job. So I think that's a big change, and the whole press on technology at every level of our organization.
Okay, Dr. Batra.
For me, I think COVID is a time to renew and enhance relationships, not be transactional at all. While in some aspects we need to be transactional, but mostly not be transactional. Whether it's your colleagues, whether it's your partners, whether it's your advertiser, it's a time to strengthen relationships, because that's what matters. Whatever that means to anyone, it's a
strengthen relationships. Okay, Prakash Malia.
I would think the biggest learning for us as a company and individual is you are not an island. You are part of a broader ecosystem, and together we can. And when we thought about earlier in corporate social responsibility goals, we would have individual company goals on how do I reduce the social or environmental footprint for me as a company and contribute back. Now, if you look at our goals that we finalized a couple of weeks or so back, is more oriented towards how do I, using collaboration across with the industry ecosystem, drive the cause of society.
Okay.
Big change.
Okay. Paul?
As we've been forced to be apart through this COVID crisis, and I think we've come closer together than ever. Even this discussion today, we would not be having this discussion if COVID were not here. We'd be talking about the economy, we'd be talking about current events and so on, right? So I think this is bringing people together more than ever. So absolutely, relationships become more and more important. That's a big learning for me.
Lloyd?
I think the big learning for me is it's like someone's pressed this giant pause button, right? And everything is kind of on hold. So I think the big opportunity, one is to reinvent, take this kind of, certain amount of downtime to really reinvent one's game, reinvent one business model. And the other part, I think, which I want to emphasize, is really reaching out. The fact that there's a world out there besides us and our employees and our colleagues that really need help. We saw it with the migrants. We saw it with some of the part-time domestic help, people that serve us. So I think reinvent and reach out are the two things this disruption has taught.
Okay, let's now look at the benefit of hindsight. If you could have done something better, what could that have been through these 3 months? Lloyd Matthias.
I think the first part is really manage time better. I think we're so used to an office environment. You go, you've got someone who kind of manages your calendar. Your day is kind of struck into clear parts. I think suddenly at home, this whole thing is thrown open, right? Suddenly, everyone's kind of grabbing your calendar. You're finding yourself working. So first fortnight, first month, I end up mostly spending 10 or 12 hours in front of the computer. Bad idea. I would like to have really relooked at my entire time management.
Time management better. Paul?
Absolutely agree with Lloyd. Leaders in times of crisis show their true colors. We either fight, right, or we flee. We all decided to fight, and the way we fought was we filled our calendars from morning till night with meetings, thoughting that we were doing something meaningful. I would have avoided that if I could do it.
Okay. Sachin.
Won't agree more than Paul. I mean, the fact is what Paul and Lloyd have said. The calendar, we thought we'd be more productive. And I think perhaps we started on a wrong foot. Perhaps would have done differently.
Dr. Batra?
And Lloyd has made me think last night, and I'd like to be more impactful in what I do, even if it means doing little lesser. So more impact, less is more.
Prakash Malia.
I would say be more grateful for everything I have. I mean, the relationships, the family relationship, a team that has so much spunk despite the difficult situation, an extraordinary company that has prioritized the well-being of employees more than anything else. There is so much to be optimistic and hopeful for. So we take so much for granted. That's what I've learned.
But it shouldn't be all gray. There should be a silver lining as well. It shouldn't be all doom and gloom. There should be light at the end of the tunnel, and there is. So let's before we wrap up and get one or two audience questions, because I think we're completely out of time, let's end on a positive note. What's one long-term benefit you see arising out of the COVID disruption? Prakash Malik.
I feel I will break it down in three ways, right? Individual, as a leader, and broader as a society. As an individual, I do think I have appreciated more our team, our customers, our partners. Our ability to think on the feet, listen more, at least dramatically has gone up for me. Second, as a leader, I do not think compassion and empathy would be treated as a soft skill anymore. It is definitely going to be needed to inspire teams in trying times like what we have seen. It's more important than ever. And as a broader society, I do think we will emerge stronger and better, because whether it's called sustainability, equality of opportunity, we will absolutely do the right thing by everyone. And I'm proud to be part of a technology company that can really help further that cause.
Point taken. Dr. Batra.
My biggest positive is the fact that I can change. I can no longer what I did past. Some habits are difficult to change, but a lot of things, it's okay if I didn't meet people. So I realized never say never. That's the biggest, because I have a certain belief system that started to challenge some parts of that. Second is, you talk about light at the end of the tunnel. I want to say it's not about the light at the end of the tunnel. Even when you're in tunnel, there is enough light. Look for that light.
Look for the keyhole. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
Be that light. Why do you have to look for the light at the end of the tunnel? You can be in the tunnel and still be light. But
Sachin Jain.
my biggest gratitude is that, it has made us think. Sachin talked about reflection. I think more than I ever thought.
Okay.
I'm a very action-oriented person.
Point taken. Sachin Jain.
For me, it's a huge sense of gratitude, to life and really what's happening around me. And also the fact that all the things that we want to do as an organization or individually, time is to press on the pedal and do them. Don't procrastinate. Go ahead and make it happen.
Paul.
Well, Martin Luther King said, "Only in the darkness we see the stars." So this crisis has actually been a blessing in many ways. I think we've all discovered our North Star, which is our purpose. And this is, in a way, something that's going to serve us well for the rest of our lives.
Okay. Lloyd?
I think I'll go with what Paul said. Just that one addition is the fact that it suddenly made us realize the amount of dependencies we have. Things that we take for granted, the people who help us in our households, the people who work in our offices in small times. I think this moment has really taught us that there's so much more than just office animals, and there's so much more to humanity and corporate workers in general.
All right, let me just take one or two audience questions if I can. There's a question for Mr. Matthias. With the economy taking a downturn, which sector do you think is likely to see surprising growth and you will be investing in the coming months?
I think there are a couple of sectors that are seeing huge growths. I think one is the whole business of online learning. Suddenly remote learning, which was a kind of historic thing. I've seen young 7, 8-year-old kids having classes online. So I think online learning is bound to see a big part. The other one which I see hugely big and I'm betting on is the whole business of AI in the context of medical, right? Remote diagnostics. Today if you have to go for a simple cold, you won't go to a doctor, you're going to call him. So the whole idea of remote diagnostics, telemedicine, I think these two sectors are going to see huge upsurges.
Okay. What's a key takeaway for boosting morale of employees when people in high echelons are facing the issues themselves? Who would like to take that?
Be authentic. Say I don't know. Be authentic. Say I don't know. Accept that you don't have the answers, but we'll find it together.
Okay. Interestingly, there's a question does Intel plan to launch lower end models as well for economically weaker students at this point? Okay, that's another interesting one. Prakash, would you like to take that?
We have launched an initiative called PC Pathshala, which is to help parents, teachers, and students tide through these trying times. We absolutely are working and collaborating very closely with our customers also to bring all kinds of technology options for learning for our citizens and specifically students.
Fantastic. Okay, we're completely out of time, so we leave it at that. I hope I managed to take a few attendee questions as well, and I hope the attendees enjoyed watching this program. I hope the viewers enjoyed watching this program as well. Fascinating conversation on some of the big leadership issues and business issues that all of you have faced. For having this conversation with us, thank you very much, and wish you all the very best. Take care, stay safe, and we hope you come out of this stronger very soon. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Ananda.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
You did a fab job.
Thanks.
Bye.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.